Hello, I'm Elgato. One of the things I've been meaning to do in Minecraft for quite some time now is to take an existing NPC village and to increase its size, its population, and its general usefulness so that I can get more achievements by using this village. And this was one of the things that made me realize that, actually, these goals that I have for the village match up pretty perfectly with those that the fascist Italian government had during the early half of the 20th century. And then I started to think, why not use that as a model on which to base the village? So today we're going to be doing a little bit of a 2-in-1 tutorial. It's going to be half a guide on how to make your Minecraft village more populous, more useful, and bigger in general, and half a guide on how to create a fascist dictatorship, which can help you make a one-party, rule over any given state. Again, these are both things that you need on a fairly frequent basis, so today's tutorial will help you do both in a kind of compact 2-in-1 way. So let's dive straight into it by going to our nearest village. So this is my closest village. It's about 1,000 blocks away from spawn, and it'll do quite nicely because, as you can see, it's a pretty farming-based village with the same number of villagers as doors, so about 5 to 10. It's not a very big village, and that's going to change because the first step, both in creating a Minecraft village, which you want to keep safe, and also in creating a fascist dictatorship where there is clearly an outside threat, is you need to make an inside and an outside. You need to clearly define the borders, so we're going to make a big wall around this world because, having walls is a good thing to keep an inside and an outside, so let's make a big old wall. So it's important to consider the size of the area you're trying to mark up, first of all, because if you're making a fascist dictatorship, you're trying to create a nation state, you need to bear in mind that the bigger the nation state, the more conflicts can arise. Again, every nation state was artificially created at some point, and the way you create this, is really important, because the bigger your nation state, the more internal conflicts can start to complicate things and cause more issues for you. So pick a nice state of a fascist dictatorship, and also, for Minecraft villages, there is a radius from the central well, or the center of the village, which is usually defined as the well, from which the villagers can go. So make sure if you're building big walls, you don't build them 100 blocks away, because if you go more than 32 blocks from the center of your village, bad things tend to happen. So just keep in mind that you can make a village very large, but it will usually count as multiple different villages within one larger structure. So we want to have one fixed village, and we want to have one fairly small nation state so that we can, again, exert control over it in a much easier and more efficient manner, because that's what we're going for today. So let's finish the wall. So another really important element, besides having strong walls, a clearly defined in and out boundary, which I'm also going to use as part of the villager housing later, which is important for both the Minecraft village and, perhaps the fascist state. It's also important, if you have a lot of these Minecraft villages, or you're making a fascist state, to have clear symbols that recognize, who you are and where you are. So I don't want to go and copy Italy's directly, but what we will do is make this moderately suspicious looking green and white flag. This is going to be our banner that represents everything, and we're going to place these just, kind of sporadically around the place, just to signify, like, this is our place. As you can see, green and white means good guys. People inside these walls, they're represented by green and white is good. And again, if you're making a Minecraft village, it's also handy to, again, distinguish between different villages, so oh yeah, this village is the white and green village, or this area of the world is belong to white and green. Again, banners are super useful for symbolism in that way, and also flags in the real world are useful in a similar way. So make sure you have flags everywhere that signify this equals good, everything else equals bad, and then move on to the next step. Because the next thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to increase the population of your village and or fascist state. If you want to have a powerful state, it needs to have a lot of people living there. This is one of the real powers of countries like China or Russia, for instance. And if you want to create villages in Minecraft, what you're going to want to do is get yourself a bunch of doorways. So for a doorway to count as a real door in terms of villager breeding, because the villager cap, the number of villagers that can spawn, is based on the number of valid doorways, all you need to have is a doorway with some form of roof above it. That roof can be directly above it, or it can be 2 blocks above it like this, but as long as you have some more of roof weight above every one of these things, so there's technically an inside, then what you have done is you have created yourself more doors, which has increased the number of villagers who can spawn. Then, once you've created your doors, all you need to do is find each of your villagers and give them some food. So bread works, carrots work, any food that can spawn a village is good food to make them ready to breed. So we find 2 villagers, this guy and this guy, for instance, and then once you give them the food and they actually pick it up, because as you can see, they just put it in their inventory, they'll get ready to breed, and you'll see in a few seconds how 2 villagers who have been fed will just suddenly start, falling in love with each other, and then you'll start to see some hearts appear above their head. And then after 2 villagers have hearts next to their heads together, very much like in the real world, they'll eventually magically produce a baby villager. Or it might take a few more seconds of loving in this case. And there you go, just like that. A pretty accurate, look at the human reproductive cycle, but in villages. So that's how you increase the population of villagers. Keep feeding them and keep having doorways, because every door is an increased it technically counts as a house. In Minecraft Java, it's every 3 doors is 1 house. In Minecraft Bedrock, every single 1 door equals 1 house. So if you want to do the same in your fascist state, because you want to increase the population, what you tend to usually have to do is, make a lot of propaganda saying that, if you create children, it's good for the country, it's good for your glorious leader, Toycat the winged man. So you want to make some propaganda like that. Or you can use the Japan method, which they still use to this day, and have fertility days where you encourage couples to go home and maybe get bored like that. So yeah, make a kind of boring state where there's not much to do, and then give your citizens lots of food, and then magically you'll end up with a lot more. So you'll also notice that what we're doing right here is we're using our castle wall as part of a, like our strategy to make more doors. This is also, again, a clever thing you can do in most reward situations. The reason this is, a good idea, at least in my opinion, is because it means that the citizens that are going to be born, they're technically speaking going to live in this castle. So this castle, this wall, this kind of mix of like a walls with a barrack sort of thing, I kind of picture it being like a Skyrim wall. The reason that this is something that's really good is because it means that everyone's going to be born and they're going to live inside of the military or the military-industrial complex or whatever you want to call it. And this is a good thing because when you have a fascist one-party state, you need people to be loyal to the state. In the case of, again, Italy, fascist Italy during the early 20th century, one of their big aims was to have people be really heavily focused into the military. Military was always to be glorified above all else. Like if you served in the military, that was the greatest thing you could have done. This is also true for some remnants of the Roman Empire. But just as a fun fact, despite, military being the key aim of fascist Italy, they were also really bad at war. So, here's a fun meme of, I can totally invade Greece. Someone who totally cannot invade Greece. Italy was very bad at war, despite that being the whole thing. But yeah, fun fact for you right there. Focus on the military, and in this case, our way of focusing on the military is to make every one of our citizens live in our defenses. The way our thing is defended is also going to be where all the citizens live. They're going to be defending the border, because we need to have every single citizen invested in society, and given that most of society is doorways and walls right now, that's how we're going to do things. You might also notice that our walls are getting higher and higher. Again, there's 2 walls here to make a clear kind of house inside of the wall, but our walls are getting higher, and that's another little bit of symbolism right there, because the higher you make your walls, the stronger you make your defenses. You're going to get people who try to complain about that, who try to say like, wait a minute, what's going on here? But you do it subtly, like in front of their noses, very slowly, and then no one notices when you suddenly have super high walls, which make it hard for anyone else to leave, and hard for anything else to enter. Really clever thing if you're trying to make a fascist one-party state, or, in the case of this one, if you don't want your villagers escaping, you need big walls. Also, the villagers just give bread to each other. I'm not sure what this means, but apparently good things for the villagers. So at the same time as you're making all these concerning changes to villagers and their houses, I'm adding way more doors, I'm overcrowding the villagers, I'm adding more and more food, more and more crops. At the same time you do these things that some people might find unpopular, you need to find a scapegoat to blame. So in our case, what we're going to do is make a second banner type. This is going to be a nice black banner. It's going to look like this, and this is going to be the other. Whenever a village thinks to themselves like, it'd be sure nice if we didn't have this toy cat guy ruling us, I'll remind them like, oh, I'd keep you safe from the other, whoever that may be. And as long as you have an other to rally against, generally speaking, you can do about anything you want, Like, why is this thing so bad? It's the other people. Why is there now 3 doors in my house instead of 1? Well, it's because we got the other people over there. Again, very, very strong idea for a fascist one-party state, which happens to be how we're running this Minecraft village. So now when people complain about, bad things that are happening, we can remind them that it's way worse out there. Look how bad, those black flag people over there are. Like, oh, we gotta watch out for them. I'm glad I'm inside here and not outside there. Again, reinforce the sense that, like, it's good inside here. These people are the good people. There's something that links us all together. And those people, the things that aren't us, they're scary and dangerous and need to be avoided at all costs. That's what you want to be going for in both cases. I mean, in Minecraft, it's a little bit less important. But husks live through the daylight, so if you want to have an intimidating force, it's a good one to use. But yeah, let's not focus on the next step. So when your Minecraft village gets big enough, what will actually start to happen, interestingly enough, is your village will start to spawn iron golems by default. When you get a certain number of villagers in the village, more and more of these iron golems will start to spawn to protect the villagers from zombies and other threats. And in other news, if you're also making a fascist state, eventually people will start to attack you. They'll start to attack your record, saying you're not as good as some of the other guys, and that's when you need to start doing stuff like this. I'm making a railway because one of the famous defenses of Mussolini, to this day, surprisingly enough, is that, at least the railways ran on time. So So all you gotta do is spend at least a little bit of time investing in a railway system. We'll make a nice simple one for now, and all you gotta do is make sure it runs on time, and then no matter how many like historic injustices you commit against how many people, it doesn't matter because at least the railways ran on time, right? So yeah, our plan right here is to make a nice railway, and then to make sure it always runs on time, and now we've got ourselves historical defense just built in. So just like this, we got a little minecart. It'll go around the village eventually, but for now, look at this. Running perfectly on time, very slowly, not being useful, but I think you're fine, my defense is now. Because in general, when there is a huge dictatorship or dictatorship style issue where people are kind of worried about something, and in general with any, kind of big big issue, you need to make sure it divides people. You need to make sure there's an argument on both sides of it, even if your argument's pretty bad, because I mean the railway's running on time, although this one, I think this technically counts as running. You've always got to make sure there's something on your side, because you don't want it to be very clear that you're objectively wrong. You want it to be a muddy issue where, some people believe this, some people believe that. Make it an emotional issue, and that way you always have a lot of people on your side, especially if you have the threat of force on you as well, which we definitely do. So the next important phase of creating both a fascist one-party state that's going to be productive to you as ruler, and also to making a productive village if you want to get, say, cartography maps, is to eliminate villagers or citizens that are contrary to your goals. So in Minecraft, this means finding villagers with bad trades and getting rid of them so that the spawn space is reserved for someone else. And in the fascist one-party state, you want to just, kill anyone who's undesirable and who is negatively affecting your goal. You want to make sure that you stay in charge, because if you don't, then your vision might not be achieved. So this guy's a cartographer, I like him. This guy's a cleric offering to trade 38 zombie flesh for 1 emerald, and they're just not good trades, so we're going to kill them. And although in this village there's the real concern that the the iron golems will come after you, in this case they seem preoccupied with something else, so that's kind of fine. But you just want to increase the fear of everyone else as well, because this is a dual purpose. In your real life world, everyone's going to be a little bit terrified, like, why did he die? Was it for a good reason? Like, am I going to die too? They're going to be scared in their own little way, but it's also kind of clever because everyone else looks at that and they kind of self-select, and they're going to think, wow, I don't want to go like he did. I'm going to be extra careful. And yeah, pro tip, kill the villagers that just aren't working for you. If you're never going to use their trades anyway, there's no point in them being alive, which again, bad logic to be a human, good logic to be a ruler of a of a fascist state, in my opinion. Something else that tends to be useful in maintaining your power over a country is to disencourage intellectualism, and also to, arrest people that you find are doing the same thing. So the perfect symbolism for this is we have a village with a library in it. So this is at the center point of the village. A lot of, librarians go in there to read the books. They don't read books because it's Minecraft, but, this is the library. It's the place of knowledge. You want to destroy all the books, destroy all the point of it being a library, and in our case, what we're going to do is we're going to turn it into a prison, because the prison seems like it's just like being a bit over the top, but it's actually useful for your Minecraft village as well, because when you find a really good villager, you want to lock down his trades, you want to be able to come back to him and find him again. For instance, there's a villager somewhere around here that has a piercing 4 book. Is it this guy? No, he's a cartographer. Is it this guy? You can't tell because they look all the same. So if you lock them up, there we go, efficiency 2, that's no piercing 4. If you lock them all up, you'll be able to find them when you want to. Again, not good for their human rights, but very good for your village. So we're going to take these villagers, like this one, with his quick charge free, also a good trade, over to our prison. A useful tip for transporting villagers, by the way, is just to put them in boats, and then you can steer the boat. Even if you're on land, you might think this is a bit absurd, but you can actually do that, and that's a good way to take your villager around various places. And it's also important to have people worship you personally, you, the leader of the state. Rather, even though you believe that the country is the state, the village or whatever, you need everyone to be like, no, you are the supreme leader, you, the individual person, are the right person, because otherwise you could be usurped by someone else who doesn't believe as much, so it will have so much of the stuff focusing on you. Again, the Mussolini make the railways work fine. That's something where there's a big defense of someone who did some bad things, etc. But that works in every major system. Like, always have someone who does great things, such as slaying the creepers and saving the land, but always, have you seem like an ungodly figure. Like, in the same way that North Koreans genuinely believe that Kim Jong-un does not ever poop. I believe that's a real thing, because, he's just a supremely person, so much more fit to run the country than you, Mr. Having ideas that are against the status quo. Thank you very much, no. We believe in the white-green flag here, and Toycat is the leader, so much so that we will worship him by praying to the center of the village. I don't understand. Anyway, to probably finish our symbolism makeover of the library, we're going to put an iron door on it, so the only way you can get in and out is with my permission. It's a one-way in, one-way out kind of system. And also, we're going to put a nice little thing above the door to kind of signify that, like, yeah, this is still the place you go to learn. I mean, it's got like a book above the door. It's very clearly a library, except on the inside, it's very clearly set up for like prison stuff. And you want to make it as dark and upsetting as possible on the inside for your political opponents and or the villagers who are going to provide you with nice things. No windows, no anything like that. Make it look nice, but have the secret prison cells back here, which is going to be handy for us. And now we have a system set up where we can store up to 3 prisoners just by like letting them in like this, and then storing them in there like that, because prisoners cannot use trapdoors. I mean, both real life and Minecraft. I mean, I guess trapdoors are usable by anyone in real life, but you get the point. It's easier that way. Do you remember how earlier we said we'd make the railways run on time? Well, that's kind of taken a darker meaning these days, because we have a railway. It runs perfectly on time every time. The only issue is that it takes you to the prison. I mean, it's a little bit of repurposing, but I mean, what else do we need for a, like a railway besides Toycat's personal whims? Oh, we gotta stop villagers blocking the way. But they run on time every time, except when darn no good villagers get in the way. But otherwise, they run on time perfectly. They just go straight to the prison. Okay, it took some doing, but as you can see, we can now transport villagers to the prison perfectly on time every single time. And then we can just remove this and get rid of them. And boom, move them into one of the cells. Easy as that. As long as the guards aren't unhappy with me. But yeah, get a nice prison guard in there. Get some nice prisoners. They're the 2 components for a prison, as far as I'm aware. Another way to make makeshift prisons is just to take a regular old house, find the villager you want that's already in there, and then you can trade. Say if you want cheap cartography. Man, some of these guards are really upset with me just because I killed a few of your villagers. As it turns out, murder is not sanctioned by many people. Especially not iron golems. To make yourself some grand palaces, some grand artwork, some grand whatever you want, something to symbolize you. You are great, you are so great that you get a giant sign saying Toycat. Even though everyone has to live in these cramped conditions where they live in the walls, defending their, their city every single day, what you get to do is you live in a grand palace. And you'd figure like, wait a minute, living in a grand palace makes me seem out of touch. No, living in a grand palace shows that you're worthy of living there because you're the best. This state, this whole system revolves around you. You are the leader. That is how this fascist and / all Minecraft village works, and it's a wonderful thing to have because sometimes you're going to need some furnaces, some crafting tables, some chests. You need a place to put them, and inside the village can get crowded sometimes, so just outside the village is a good way to do it too. So yeah, enrich yourself, use the money for that, and now we can move into the final phase of the project, which is actually finally starting to get the cartography map, which we do quite want. So to try and stay on track, at least for a few minutes now, we're going to try and get this cartography map, and the way we're going to do so is to take our cartographer villager, and we're going to give him all the trades he wants. So obviously turning paper into emeralds, because we have a lot of paper, is an easy way to do this, but eventually that won't allow you to get any more. As you can see, we've maxed that out, so now we've got to start trading compasses, which again, every compass we trade gives us an emerald. Trade 5 compasses, get 5 emeralds, and that should unlock, a few seconds later, another trade. If it doesn't, then there we go. We have an empty map, which now we have to pay, emeralds for. This is the worst trade in history ever. I literally gave him 28 paper, which is enough to make 4 maps, I think, and he's offering to sell me one of these maps back for 8, but again, sometimes you have to make these awful trades at least once or twice just so you can move on to the next one. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to accept the worst trade in history. I make the best deals, except I don't. I make the worst deals according to this, and as long as you make it at least a few times, you should be able to move on. It's just, it really hurts literally buying empty maps for this price. But again, if that's what we're doing, sometimes it's what we're doing, because that gives us the Ocean Explorer map and the Woodland Explorer map. We unlock one of these Woodland Explorer maps, and now we have access to, obviously, a Woodland Mansion, which means we can actually get this little achievement. But for that, we need 21 emeralds and a compass, because, again, if he's going to make us this fancy map that only he can make, he's going to want us to pay an absurd amount for it and give him part of the part, which, I mean, that's not how real trading works. You don't walk into McDonald's and say, hey, I'd like a burger. They're like, that'd be $1.99, and we're going to need 2 burger buns from you. That'd be a surreal future. Maybe it's the future we're heading towards, but apparently that's what you need in Minecraft, so let's get those emeralds. As it turns out, I don't have the emeralds, so I'm going to have to trade with other villagers until I can get them. Seriously, look how filled it is inside here. You can't even properly see anything, because all the villagers have just decided, you know what, we're going to live in this one house. This is the nicest house in town, which it might be. I mean, it's not far away from the local prison and or library, center of education, and I guess it's one of the literally 6 houses that 1,000 villagers are now living in while I live in my mansion. And just like that, we can now trade in 17 emeralds and a compass and get a map. Or for 21 emeralds and a compass and get this map. I think either of them works for the achievement, but I really want a Woodland Explorer map because I found one Woodland Mansion in my old style, Xbox One world. I'd be curious as where my nearest one in the actual Bedrock style world is. So let's go and look for it, I guess, because we're in the left of it. So this is going to take a lot of traveling, actually, a lot of fireworks, I imagine. Let's see if we can make it there. Actually, yeah, 5 is not going to be enough to make it there and back. So we're going to make a bunch of fireworks, and then we're going to fly over to our structure. But this is going to be the achievement finally gotten. all of this, you know, creating villagers, you know, trading with them, all this sort of stuff has been leading up to this moment. You might argue it was excessive just because you wanted an achievement. You might argue that you could do this faster just by doing those steps for all of this. But again, having a village farm, having one of these things is handy, not only because, you know, you want it for that stuff, but also because now we have a fascist state worshipping Toy Cat, and also because of the fact that we can trade anything we want on a mass style scale. Honestly, you don't appreciate how much you want a villager farm until you have one, and yeah, the amount of uses you can get from this. You can trade IF Enders even if you find the right cleric trades. You can trade a lot of different things for and with emeralds, and given how many exclusive things villagers can trade, chainmail, you know, the enchanted books, as well as these explorer maps, it's something you're going to want to do. Okay, so I made myself a bunch of fireworks. Even this might not be enough, because this could be thousands of blocks away if I'm going to find the Woodland Mansion, but we're going to give it our best shot, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's fly from here to our Woodland Mansion. So, again, because we want to really maximize distance, we're going to start flying towards the sky, because that means you can kind of like curve your way down and have a much better chance. And wait a minute, am I appearing on the... I thought I was appearing on the map, it's just I'm sliding across it. So it's exactly this way for some number of thousands, tens of thousands, maybe, you know, if we're lucky, just a few thousands, but we've got to go this way for many, many, many blocks, and that is how we're going to find ourselves this Woodland Mansion. An interesting thing you might not know is that the achievement actually specifies that you have to enter the given structure. So if it's an ocean monument, you have to be inside it. If it's a Woodland Mansion, you're going to have to like go in that front door somehow, which means that not only do we have to go this distance, not only do we have to find one of these, which will be a fun task by itself, but we also have to go literally inside of it, which, I mean, I guess makes more sense than like standing on top of it or something like that. Although actually, you know, I'd be willing to bet the game doesn't know the difference between standing on top of a structure and going inside, so let's find out, because most people don't have elytras where they can just fly to these things. But imagine doing this journey on foot. Imagine you go through all this effort with your village, you know, it's an oppressive state, and one day your villager says, oh, I found the thing you want. All you have to do is go literally thousands of blocks away. You'd assume they were lying to you. You'd assume they were trying to get you killed, so you'd go around the other side of the earth. Oh, I've never seen that happen before. It just signed me out. Midway through flying. I broke something, it seems. Okay, well, I randomly got signed out midway through, but it turns out we're just going the exact same way in the exact same place, so I guess that's fine, question mark? Hey, so we've traveled 14,000 blocks, but here we are. We're in the right place, although it doesn't look like it. Although, actually, there we go. It's a roof forest, which means here is our Woodland Mansion. It's actually huge, much bigger than the little house symbol on the map, because I guess the map is quite a small, zoomed-in one. And let's see if we get the achievement just for standing on top of it. So we'll stand here for, like, 20 seconds and see if that does it, because there's a bit of an achievement lag with Minecraft for some reason. So interestingly enough, it seems as though, based on my waiting 30 seconds, that you actually do have to go inside the Woodland Mansion somehow. So perhaps just cutting in the top will work. I mean, I need to kill them for their totem of dying anyway, so let's just break in and let's get me some of these good things. And here's our first evoker. So as you can see, they're super terrifying. All you have to do is just kind of rush them, and you get yourself one of these super rare Totem of Undying. So I've definitely entered the revealed structure. It's definitely one I've never been to before, based on the map loading in. But yet, no achievement. So yeah, I'm gonna assume achievement lag while we kill some things. So I'm gonna enter and leave a few times just to really drive home the fact that I definitely did the thing that they want me to. Maybe if it's in my main hand. Like, look, here's the map. I'm entering it. It looks a lot bigger on this map, actually, because it's two hands. I mean, it's the same map. It shouldn't look any bigger or smaller, but somehow it does. Anyway, so I've entered the structure a few times. Now I'm just gonna wait in this corner right here until an achievement pops up. Hey, there it is. I was trying to deal with the achievement tracker, but as you can see, Treasure Hunter, acquire a map from a cartography villager, then enter the revealed, and then it kind of zones out. Also, because I was loading up achievement at the time, it seems to have broken things. But as you can see, we've now done it. And I'm going to turn this down to 1. We have officially done that, and now we just have 5 achievements left to get, which I guess we could actually do at some point fairly soon. So I was going to fly home, and then I realized that the fastest way would probably just be to, honestly, set up a Nether portal. Then I was like, how to set up a Nether portal? And I remembered that some of the rare rooms you can find in Woodland Mansion are actually hidden from the rest of them. So stuff like this, for instance, we actually missed because we weren't looking for it. So yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to break our way in there using a Silk Touch pickaxe, just so you can, get the glass panes back. But yeah, there are actually rooms like this which have hidden enchanted golden apples. Whoa, that's better than I assumed, actually. And including stuff like 13, if that's your thing. But still, we just got an enchanted golden apple from this thing, which is pretty absurd to get for free while trying to do something else. But If you want another weird example, there's also this room right here. It's kind of like hidden on top of just an empty room by itself, but it's got two chests which also can both contain stuff like enchanted golden apples, or just name tags, gunpowder, which is actually going to get me home, and stuff like that. So yeah, pro tip, always look around because you never know what you might find, and what you're going to find is often rare stuff you can't find anywhere else, because name tags are only found in the wild, so it's kind of cool just to find them by accident along with other stuff. And as it turns out, just below the wooden mansion, at least on my seed, there's also a huge cave filled with lava and potentially filled with diamonds too. So we'll go ahead and we'll turn some of that into obsidian, and we'll grab the obsidian and whatever else we can find around here. And now I've got the obsidian, what I can do just outside of this place is I can make myself a little nether portal. And the handy thing about this is it means we can get back here anytime if we want to. So yeah, just like that, we can now save ourselves a lot of effort flying back. And although still 14,000 blocks, even in the nether, it's going to be, what, almost 2,000? 1,869 blocks back. So not as far as it could have been, but still quite far compared to how long it should have been, really. So I do have a nether pathway which is meant to help me get through this, but I can't find it. So instead we'll just go back the way we kind of meant to go, and we'll pray that we find something when we get near to 0. Let's place a lot of the random loot that we've kind of gathered into this huge chest of sorts, and then let's go back to the village. And now we can place even more doors going all the way around the edge of the village, because we've got plenty of these door slots. Every single door equals another village, or if you're in Java, every single 3 doors equals 1 new villager, which means you can get even more trades for even more villagers, for even more achievements if you want them, or if you just want to farm these maps to find more of these villages, or more strongholds, more ocean monuments, more anything, you can do it in that way. And yeah, this is the key element of this village. The fact that there's going to be, you can already see they've started to breed just in there. You can see how this is just an amazing little thing, where as soon as you raise the villager cap, you're going to get more villagers for more stuff, and having a village farm is something that seems really obtuse on paper. Honestly, it used to be really, really tricky to make a villager farm. There used to be really confusing mechanics, but it really is as simple now as have one door with a valid roof above it, and you can make 1 new villager, and if you do that, you're going to have a pretty good time. Hope this guide taught you how to do so, and maybe, just maybe, if you want to control your country via fascist one-party militaristic tactics, then maybe this video helps you with that too. Either way though, hope you did all enjoy the video. Make sure to praise the white and green flag land, the superior people, in the comments down below, and also to like the video if you liked it, share it if you really liked it, hit that notification bell if you want to see more videos like this one every single day on your channel, or your homepage. It's on my channel, but you can see it on your homepage if you hit that bell, and also it boosts my, my ego, which is always a good thing for YouTubers to have, right? That's never something that goes wrong. But no, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.